If you find 3 wonderful businesses in your life, you'll get very rich.
Today we have a masterclass because today we are learning about investing from the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett. For those of you who are not familiar with Warren Buffett, he has been recognized as the world's most successful investor, and he is a philanthropist who has pledged to give away 99% of his $85.6 billion fortune to charity. He's a business tycoon, an American investor, and the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. So if you want to get investing tips from the world's most successful investor, then stay tuned, because in this video we will learn many of Warren Buffett's simple but not easy investing principles. We will teach you how to become very rich by owning 3 wonderful businesses. Also, I will go over Warren Buffett's most misunderstood and misinterpreted quote. We have a ton of information to go over, but first, please consider subscribing to my channel. For this channel to become monetized, I have to get more than 1,000 subs, and right now, I'm halfway there. So please make sure that you subscribe, ring that bell, smash that like button. Now let's get started.
You can spend your money and keep it too.
The first rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule, and that's all the rules there are. I mean, if you buy things for far below what they're worth, and you buy a group of them, you basically don't lose money.
It doesn't get simpler than this. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Not losing money is very important because it's twice as hard to get the money back. For example, if you invest $1 in the stock market and your dollar loses half of its value, you now have to double the remaining 50 cents just so that you can break even.
Warren, what do you consider the most important quality for an investment manager?
It's a temperamental quality, not an intellectual quality. You don't need tons of IQ in this business. You need a stable personality. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd. Because this is not a business where you take polls, it's a business where you think. You're not right or wrong because 1,000 people agree with you. You're right because your facts and your reasoning are right.
The truth is, a great investor does not have to even be very smart. The best investors are people who remain calm in the face of negative news. One of the most important things that a new investor can learn is that the experts on television just can't be trusted. In the best case, they are often just plain wrong, but in the worst case, they can be promoting an agenda with bold-faced lies that they are rarely, if ever, called on. But don't listen to me. Listen to what Jim Cramer has to say about it. In his investing rule number 21 out of 25.
Rule 21, be a TV critic. Lots of times executives say whatever they want on air, knowing they can get away with it. They'll say, I'm in it long term, but they might blow it out the next day. I think you are naive if you simply believe what you hear. When someone comes on and says that some plunging stock is a buy, do you think, that sounds like an opportunity? Or do you muse, wow, that guy's really stuck in that pig? If you answer yes to the former, well, you need to be a little more skeptical. If you ask the question posed about the pig, let's just say you think he's ready for prime time right now.
I'd like to elaborate on Cramer's pig analogy because I think he's making an important point. When Cramer talks about experts coming on television and claiming that a plunging stock is actually a buy, there's a very good chance that they actually own this pig of a stock and they're just trying to convince the public, you guys, to all jump in and buy the stock to push the price up so they can get out of this turkey. They don't care about you. And sometimes they come on TV and try to knock down the price of great companies. They use exaggerated or fake news to try to get people to sell out of the stock so it brings the price down so they could buy more. Again, they don't care about you. The good news is that an informed investor can recognize exaggerated or fake news really easily. And on that note, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all of the short sellers out there who have consistently kept the price of Tesla down for the last 5 years. This allowed me to buy many more shares than I would have been able to otherwise. And I would like to add how badly I feel for all the short sellers who lost entire fortunes simply because They were too stubborn, proud, and pig-headed to cover their positions when they could.
Defining your area of competence in valuing businesses, finding whatever sells at the cheapest price in relation to value. And there are all kinds of things I'm not competent to value. But there are a few that I am competent to value.
Have you ever bought a technology company?
No, I really haven't.
In 30 years of investing, not one?
I haven't understood any of them.
So you haven't ever owned, for example, IBM? Which
Never
has
owned
been a
IBM. Marvelous company. I mean, a sensational company, but I haven't owned IBM.
And so here is this technological revolution going on, and you're not going to be a participant.
Gone right past me.
Is that all right with you?
It's okay with me.
Remember, these are the words of the most successful investor in the world.
I don't have to make money in every game. I mean, I don't know what cocoa beans are going to do. There are all kinds of things I don't know about, and that may be too bad. But why should I know all about them? I haven't worked that hard on them.
Notice how at ease Warren Buffett is. He does not worry about missing out on opportunities, and he just doesn't invest in anything he doesn't understand. I used to think that you could just tell people which stocks to buy and then they'd be okay. But it's not enough, because they have to know what to do if the stock goes up or down. When people don't know what they own, they have a tendency to panic. They either sell out of a great stock at a loss, or they buy an overhyped media favorite just because they're afraid of missing out. The truth is, you shouldn't worry about missing out, because there's always a new opportunity.
In the securities business, you literally every day have thousands of the major American corporations offered to you at a price that changes daily. And you don't have to make any decisions. You have to make, nothing is forced upon you. So there are no called strikes in the business. The pitcher just stands there and throws balls at you. And if you're playing real baseball and it's between the knees and the shoulders, you either swing or you get a strike called on you. If you get too many called on you, you're out. In the securities business, you sit there and they throw U.S. Steel at 25 and they throw General Motors at 68, and you don't have to swing at any of them. They may be wonderful pitches to swing at, but if you don't know enough, you don't have to swing. And you can sit there and watch thousands of pitches, and finally you get one right there where you want it, something that you understand, and then you swing. And
so you might not swing for 6 months.
You might not swing for 2 years.
Isn't that boring?
It would bore most people, and certainly boredom is a problem with most professional money managers. If they try to sit out an inning or two, not only do they get somewhat antsy, but their clients start yelling, "Swing, you bum," from the stands, and that's very tough for people to do.
It's definitely not easy. Warren Buffett says that the stock market is a device for transferring money from the inpatient to the patient. Investors who enter the stock market just to make a quick buck don't usually do well. First, they'll buy any stock just because it's going up. And then when it dips a bit, they panic and sell out because they think now it's going to zero. People are not patient by nature, but an investor who is able to be level-headed and doesn't panic in the midst of market volatility will definitely be rewarded. In time, your investment income can take on a snowball effect, and when this income approaches or surpasses the income from your real job, then you are no longer trading hours for dollars, and then you will have done it. You will have found a way to make money while you sleep. And now you will not work until you die.
Warren, your approach seems so simple. Why doesn't everybody do it?
Well, I think partly because it is so simple. That the academics, for example, focus on all kinds of variables. Partly because
by academics you mean professors of
right,
finance?
Yeah, the data's there.
In business school?
Sure, and the data's there. So they focus on whether if you buy stocks on Tuesday and sell them on Friday, you're better off, or if you buy them in election years. And sell them in other years, you're better off, or if you buy small companies. There are all these variables because the data are there, and they've learned how to manipulate data. And as a friend of mine says, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And once you have these skills, you just are dying to utilize them in some way, but they aren't important. If I were being asked to participate in a business opportunity, would it make any difference to me whether I bought it on a Tuesday or a Saturday or an election year or something? It's not what a businessman thinks about in buying businesses. So why think about it when buying stocks? Because stocks are just pieces of businesses.
Thinking about investing as owning a piece of a business really helps you to keep your focus where it should be, on the business of your business. And owning a piece of the business might actually help you to focus on statistics that matter. Like, do they actually make products that people love? Okay, here we go. Diversification is for idiots. But is it really? Let's see what Warren Buffett actually said in the clip.
We think diversification is, as practiced generally, makes very little sense for anyone that knows what they're doing.
The problem with this statement is that people are taking it out of context. And when Warren Buffett says that diversification makes no sense for people who know what they're doing, there's a lot of people that just sort of assume that they actually know what they're doing.
Diversification is a protection against ignorance. I mean, if you want to make sure that nothing bad happens to you relative to the market, you own everything. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that is a perfectly sound approach for somebody who does not feel they know how to analyze businesses. If you know how to analyze businesses and value businesses, it's crazy to own 50 stocks or 40 stocks or 30 stocks probably.
Buffett is talking to a professional audience, and when he says that diversification as practiced generally makes very little sense, he was referring to the so-called professional money managers producing mere average results.
There aren't that many wonderful businesses that are understandable to a single human being in all likelihood, and to have some super wonderful business and then put money in number 30 or 35 on your list of attractiveness and forego putting more money into number 1 just strikes Charlie and me as madness. And it's conventional practice, and it may, you know, if all you have to achieve is average, it may preserve your job, but it's a confession in our view that you don't really understand the businesses that you own.
At first glance, this looks a lot like Buffett does not like diversification, but he stipulates wide, as in owning a little bit of everything, and for people who don't know what they're doing. From Warren Buffett's point of view, 80% of the professional investors do not know what they're doing, let alone your average construction worker, teacher, or student. The truth is, Warren Buffett has been recommending index funds for years. Warren Buffett believes that by periodically investing in an index fund, the know-nothing investor can actually outperform most investment professionals. Whoa, hold up a minute. Are you telling me that an investor that knows nothing can outperform a professional investment manager just by buying an index fund? What, are these professional managers stupid? In fact, Warren Buffett believes this so strongly that in 2007 he made a $1 million bet. He bet that a low-cost S&P 500 ETF would outperform hand-picked hedge funds over a 10-year period. The S&P 500 index returned 7.1% annually from 2008 to 16, while the hedge funds only returned 2.2% in the same period. The costs that they impose on investors seem to be more than enough to neutralize any of the benefits of being actively managed. As it turns out, Warren Buffett likes indexes so much that he even recommended them to Lebron James.
My first question would be, what should I invest in next? Can I have some tips?
I think somebody like LeBron, through the rest of his career and beyond, just making monthly investments in a low-cost index fund makes a lot of sense. Somebody in his position ought to have a significant cash reserve, and whatever makes them comfortable. And then beyond that, owning a piece of America, a diversified piece, bought over time, held for 30 or 40 years, it's bound to do well. And the income will go up over the years, and there's really nothing to worry about.
So why would Warren Buffett recommend a low-cost index fund to LeBron James? LeBron James has reached a point in his career where he is very comfortable. But you only need to get rich once. What he needs to do at this point is to preserve his wealth, which is exactly what a low-cost index fund was designed to do, to reduce the risk of losing money. And when Buffett recommends to own a piece of America that's bought over time, he's talking about value cost averaging into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, one like VFINX. On the other hand, diversification may preserve wealth, but concentration builds it. So when time is on your side, when you're young, you should take on riskier investments. because if something happens, you still have your whole life to make back the money. There's no such thing as a company that's 100% safe, not even Tesla. If you're 100% invested in Tesla 2 weeks before you retire and a SpaceX satellite falls out of the sky and lands right on top of Elon Musk and his Model S, you're in trouble, and your retirement could lose 70% of its value in one day.
Do I need to own 28 stocks in order to have proper diversification? Be nonsense. If you find 3 wonderful businesses in your life, you'll get very rich. 3 wonderful businesses is more than you need in this life to do very well. If you look at how the fortunes were built in this country, they weren't built out of a portfolio of 50 companies. They were built by someone who identified with a wonderful business. Coca-Cola is a great example. A lot of fortunes have been built on that. And there aren't 50 Coca-Colas. There aren't 20. A really wonderful business is very well protected against effective competition. And they'll be safer, incidentally. I mean, there is less risk in owning 3 easy-to-identify wonderful businesses than there is in owning 50 well-known big businesses. If I had to bet the next 30 years on the fortunes of my family that would be dependent upon the income from a given group of businesses, I would rather pick 3 businesses from those we own than own a diversified group of 50.
Warren Buffett drops quotable pearls of wisdom every time he opens his mouth. But what he just said bears repeating, because he just told you how to become rich in 1 sentence. Do you want to hear it again? If you have 3 wonderful businesses in your life, then you will get very rich. The reason you need 3 wonderful businesses is that you never want to put all of your eggs into one basket, because if the unthinkable should occur to one business, you're going to be glad to have the other 2. It's really not hard to spot a wonderful business. It's like spotting an athlete that's in a class of his own. He's so far ahead of the competition that there is no competition. It's strange, but once you find a wonderful business, the mainstream media is usually its biggest critic. As a smart investor, it's your job to keep an eye on the actual fundamentals of the businesses that you own, without allowing yourself to be distracted by the mainstream media's attempts to get ratings at your company's expense. Or as Buffett put it, if you own a wonderful business, the best thing to do is keep it. All you're going to do is trade your wonderful business for a whole bunch of cash, which isn't as good as the business. And you got the problem of investing in other businesses, and you probably paid a tax in between. So my advice to anybody who owns a wonderful business is to keep it. Warren Buffett says that it's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. This means that it's better to pay up for a best-of-breed company rather than to pick up some wannabe at half the price. I remember when Starbucks first became a thing. Starbucks created more than premium coffee. They made an environment that people would rather be in than their own homes. Next thing you know, coffee shops started popping up all over the place. And people invested real money in these copycat coffee shops, hoping that they were going to get invested into the next Starbucks. Had they only invested money in Starbucks back then. Since that day, Starbucks has more than 10x'd. And the copycat coffee shops? Well, most of them aren't even around anymore. You know how they say history repeats itself? Well, it's happening again right now. Not in coffee, but in electric vehicles. There's a ton of investors out there that are upset because, oh, we missed out on Tesla. And instead of just buying into Tesla, they're buying all these other new electric vehicle startups, thinking like one of these is going to be the next Tesla. And 10 years from now, many of these electric vehicle startups won't even exist anymore. But in 10 years, Tesla stock will have gone past the moon and will be resting somewhere around Mars. There is no next Tesla, just like there was no next Starbucks. When investing in a company, it's never a mistake to buy best of breed. My portfolio has mainly been built by 2 wonderful businesses, Apple under Steve Jobs, and of course, Tesla. I fully expect to find a third wonderful business in the genomic space, quite possibly CRISPR Technologies, which is ticker CRSP. One thing I know for sure, if you want to become rich, you have to have a plan. It's amazing to me that otherwise smart people refuse to plan for something so important. People spend untold hours trying to figure out which refrigerator is a better buy, but they won't spend a single second planning for their own future wealth. Most people wait to within 5 years of when they're going to retire before they even begin to think about it. This can quite literally mean the difference between a wealthy retirement or living in poverty. For years, I invested with a strategy that I built off of Jim Cramer's Diversified Portfolio show that he aired on Mad Money. Basically, it's a portfolio that's built off of at least 5 stocks with no more than 10. Each stock is in a different sector, and there's a mixture between growth and yield. Instead of owning an entire sector, you just pick the best stock from that sector and you let it represent the whole space. For example, Apple could be technology, Bristol Myers could be medicine, Facebook could be social media, and Disney could be entertainment. And you fund the account with monthly deposits over time using value cost averaging. This kind of diversification has produced some really good results for me. Using this strategy, I was able to turn less than $40,000 into much more than $400,000 in about a dozen years. And I am not certified, credentialed, or qualified to give financial advice. So please, don't listen to me. Make up your own decision, do your own due diligence, and your own homework. YouTubers like me are constantly bashing the mainstream investment media because they are so often wrong. This is what's going on. Hedge fund managers have to appear profitable every quarter. And if they lose too much money in a single quarter, their clients can pull their money out of their accounts without penalty. They are quite literally trained to be short-term investors. A professional money manager rarely looks out past 6 months, let alone 1 year or 10. This puts the experts at an incredible disadvantage because it's almost impossible to predict what stocks will do in the short term. Here's what Warren Buffett had to say about it.
You cannot believe this stuff. I mean, modern portfolio theory and
it has no utility. I mean, it will tell you how to do average, but I think anybody can figure out how to do average in 5th grade. I mean, it's just not that difficult, and it's elaborate, and there's lots of little Greek letters and all kinds of things to make you feel that you're in the big leagues, but there is no value added.
Charlie and I continue to believe that short-term market forecasts are poison and should be kept locked up in a safe place, away from children and also from grown-ups who behave in the market like children. That's about all I have time for in this video. There's so much to learn from Warren Buffett that I never even got around to talking about my favorite Warren Buffett quote, which is right there. I'd love to know your favorite Warren Buffett quote, so please leave them down there in the comments. And let me know if you'd like more videos like this one where we learn investing techniques from masters. If so, I'll probably do Peter Lynch next. And what do you think of the 3 wonderful businesses strategy? Please comment down below. Let me know what your wonderful businesses are. Thanks for coming by. It's snowing out here in California. And until I see you again, be good to each other. And remember, you don't have to make a lot of money at your job to become rich, because when your money is making money, you can spend it and keep it too. Don't buy or sell a stock just because a YouTuber like JC says so. He's got opinions. These decisions are important. It's your money. These decisions should be made by you.